Hey, what's up everybody? And back with a video here today. This time we'll be taking out the LT-432. And this was actually my, well, as video's title suggests, my third mark game in it. Now I know I kind of bad talked this tank at first, to an extent. And while I still don't think it's that great, it's a little better than maybe I made it sound. I think my biggest issue was with it is the play style. I got this tank and immediately tried to play it. I don't want to say just like the LTTB, but I expected a similar type of play style of always on the move, always running around with my head cut off like a headless chicken. And really that never really, it never worked. This thing's a little more passive, especially with our version of it. On console, it's slower, a little worse DPM, so you have to play it a little more passively, I've kind of noticed. Hence why you'll kind of see me in this game. I'm not like circling a bunch of tanks majority AE. I'm kind of hanging back out of view range. I don't want to say but kind of just playing from the shadows, I guess you could say, in this thing. There's also another change to this replay, but we don't have to get into that right now. Let's just say I'm testing things in that bottom right hand corner, but we'll just go with that for now. But at this point of the game, like I said, we're kind of alone over here. As you can see, our team is camping. I don't want to say camping. Only a minute to the game now, but it's as fast as a light tank. But we're kind of all alone down here, and there's a T-49 who is on 1400 HP, so I don't know if he has the 90 mil or the derp gun. Either way, it's not good for us, especially if he decides to come over this way. So at that point, I'm going to cut my losses and just get out of here. We picked up some assists in that position, about 700, and we picked up a little bit more there, so now we're already up over 1,000. Again, that's really good for, again, we're going for my third mark this game. So I think I was actually around like 93.5 at this point when this game happened. But I actually enjoy Thiefel Ridge to an extent, especially my light tanks, because I can spot fairly effectively on this map. It's not something I can say for a lot of the maps, but this one you can get some good assisted damage on, especially from this spawn. I feel like this one's a little bit better. You can still get some good assisted games from the other spawn. And I certainly have. I even have my initial How I Scout videos on the other spawn. But I've kind of noticed less and less people going that way from the other spawn point. Just meta changes and stuff like that. Kind of like Lakeville, nobody really goes to town anymore, it seems like. But you see, we kind of switch up positions. We have yet to do any damage in this game. 3 minutes in, and that's going to change right now. As soon as I say that, as you roll triple twos on the Liberté. Very nice roll again, only 180 alpha on this thing, so I always take those high rolls like that. But again, we're already up to about 3,000 assisted damage, which is fantastic for marks. I can't emphasize that enough, and I know probably Swindle has, of emphasizing the importance of assisted damage, whether that's spotting, especially in light tanks you can get away with spotting, but if you're in other types of tanks trying to 3-mark stuff, tracking is really important. And I'm pretty sure though, just to keep this in mind, it only counts one of the two towards your assisted. So if you have more assisted, more spotting, I mean, or more tracking damage, it only counts one of those. I think that's the way it works. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Always feel free. Like I said, I don't know everything. It's not my specialty. I don't know everything about the game. Never kind of claim to, so at this point we're just getting some side shots into these guys who pushed up way too far, but you see we were able to fall back there and kind of reposition ourselves to another effective spot. And like I said, this is what I mean, we're just kind of like hanging back, taking our pot shots, trying to provide some view range as well. Again, the crew I have in this, because it's a premium tank, is my LTTB crew, has 18 or 19 perks now, something along those crazy lines. so it's a little nuts in terms of what I can spot, plus camo. Unfortunately, the gun this game, I will be completely fair, it's still a really good game, don't get me wrong. But the gun this game was really trolling me pretty bad. I said, that first shot on the Tiger P, I feel like should have been. But of course, when we shoot at the tier 9 heavy tank, we have no issues. Granted, he's side on, but I felt like that guy was side on as well. But again, another kind of a little more sketchy shot on the AMX. Granted, the turret on that thing, as soon as you turn it, the rear of it, it's a big broadside target for you to take a shot at. So, kind of getting trolled, but again, not really. You can't expect your rateness all the time with the gun. But again, Tigers, as against Tiger 1 earlier in this game, it was not cooperating at all. At this point, you can see we're lit up. They're looking at us, but we have a really small, low-profile tank, so we're kind of hard to hit behind this little mound. Anything's possible, obviously. Something that could be concerned here is I've been kind of sitting in the same spot for a decent amount of time as we pull off a nice little blind shot there, just by assuming the Tiger P was turning and kind of running away. Something to just pay attention to when tanks are moving and then they go undetected. If you think they're turning, rotating, and they're still in the same spot, they're slow, maybe fire off a shot and you may get rewarded. It's something I've been doing a little bit more of lately. Also speculative shots on where tanks are moving on the map. We've got a nice couple blind shots on stream recently of tanks that are traveling and then they go through where I think they're going to go through, and then I kind of just lead the shot and hit somebody. Totally blind. I just kind of guessed off of where they're going. You see this game, we've already racked up 4,500 assists and 2,000 damage, and this game has still got a ways to go in terms of tanks that are left on the board. This game's far from over, which is good. That's what you want. Usually what you want in your when you're trying to mark tanks is these real long, drawn-out games. Especially with tanks, I have another. You're not going to see the actual 3-mark game, but the Vanguard, that's a tank that when I was 3-marking it, or going for marks, I definitely wanted longer drawn-out games because the DPM on it is so bad, especially on maps that weren't spotting friendly. That just is an awful shot, but it's kind of important to have those long drawn-out games because you can get more damage, more assisted, and the game's not just a complete, what's the word for it, blowout, I suppose, and then it's over very quickly. Granted, there's blowout games you can, especially if you get some early spotting position type games, you can make them pay off. So something happens on like Malinov Assault, if you're defending and just rush down the left side of that, you can get a whole bunch of assisted very quickly. But a lot of maps, you really don't want very quick games because you want the opportunity to pick off a lot of damage and such. You see this game, we were up 11-5, and at this point we've got 5,500 assisted, which I think is about most of the assisted we're going to get this game. Maybe pick up a couple hundred more. Something you do notice, something a little different I've also picked up on in this tank compared to the LTTB, is the more ammo. I think I talked about this before in the review of this thing, but I've even started adding more HE shells in this. And the reason is it carries so much ammo compared to the LTTB. I just carry this normal amount, or a little bit more actually still, of the regular ammunition that I would in the LTTB, but then I add on with some HE shells. So I think 25, 20, and 5 is a pretty good loadout for this thing versus LTTB where I have, I believe it is 24 and 18. And it's only 42 shells versus, as, do my math right, 50. So you can use those shells for stuff like boresigs. I have discovered trying to play with them a little bit, just testing them out. You're not going to pen stuff like Walker Bulldogs or stuff like that very consistently. So I try to stick away from fighting some other light tanks. It will work against the horde of Lycans that are out right now, thanks to the monster ops. but just be warned, it will not probably work against the Bulldogs very consistently unless you shoot it right into their rear. Pretty much from their front side. It's kind of an orange pen with the HE, and it's not that great of penetration on it. It's only 100mm on this thing, or 85mm, I think. So take that with a grain of salt, but it's still useful to have those, especially for waffles and like your tier 8, so you're probably going to see some Borsigs. And again, some lower tier lights it works really well against that have no armor. French lights work pretty well. I've been messing up some Lycans, like I said, with the HE shells on this. Rolling them, I think the average damage is like 300 on the HE on this, which is pretty considerable bump in damage from the 180 that it is. But again, at this point in the game, that's why I like this tank, is I can take more speculative shots in this. Granted, the gun is the same as the LT-432 basically, except for the minor stats, but that's it. I've been enjoying this thing a little bit more, and just rethinking your playstyle, and just because the tank is in the same nation and same tank class, maybe it doesn't have the exact same playstyle. I'm kind of beating that out of myself, that hey, maybe it's not just the tank, maybe you should play it a little less aggressively in certain situations, and not think, hey, it's Russian, it's a light tank, it's a tier 8, it must also be just like the LT-432. It's not the case. So in reality, probably just mixing it up and just experimenting helps a little bit. It helps me in this thing. I've actually enjoyed it playing it while I was doing this 3 mark. So until then, I will catch you next time, and see you.